Hey everybody, it's Cayley. I'm back with another What Sold From Last Week video. In today's video, I'll be going over all of my sales that sold on eBay and Poshmark. We'll do a quick breakdown of the numbers and then I will show you a few hand-selected items that I wanted to show you so you would know what to look for when you're out at your local thrift store to flip online for a profit. Let's just jump right in. All right, so all of the numbers that you see here happen between January 16th through the 22nd. That is a Sunday through a Saturday, and that is how I calculate my sales weeks. In total, I sold 101 items between eBay and Poshmark. Gross sales were $3,568.06, making my average sale price $35.33. My estimated cost of goods based on an average buy cost was $404 for every item that sold last week. And then my estimated net, gross sales less cost of goods, less the fees and less the shipping cost was $2,214.94. Items sold on eBay was 65 and then I sold 36 on Poshmark. Gross sales on eBay were just over $2,400 and just over $1,100 on Poshmark. Poshmark's really been doing well. It's not neck and neck with eBay, but they're really pulling through on consistency. Jumping into some eBay sales I wanted to show you. This one was probably my favorite sale of the week, mainly because I've just never really heard of this brand. It is called Bird Dogs, which really can't tell what it is until you look at the .com there, the website. But this is called Bird Dog, and I don't know, it's kind of an unassuming label, but definitely keep an eye out for it. You can tell based on the bird on the button there, that little logo. So these are kind of like an athletic-y feel dressy pant, and size 34 by 34, so pretty decent size. I picked these up for $4.99. We checked comps, they were outstanding. I would definitely pick these up again. I actually found two of these, one in this tan color and one I believe in a gray. And these did end up selling for a full asking price very quickly of $59.91. So if you come across these pants in this brand, definitely worth picking up. Next up is one of my favorite brands to sell. It is J. Jill. I did not pick up everything in this brand, but definitely I pick up the nicer materials in this brand, and specifically the linen pieces do really well. This was a cotton linen blend knit sweater, and it also had just some really nice multicolor stripe detail. Just overall, again, just a modern design. So all of those things paired together, plus the fact that it was a size extra large, really helped to sell this. So I call that factor stacking. You know, there's great material. It's a decent brand. It's a larger size, and it is modern looking. And when all of those factors are combined, regardless of the brand, I typically pick items up. J. Jill's also a brand that I feel like thrift stores don't really price up. I only paid $1.50 for this, and it sold for a full asking price of $29.97. If you find J. Jill linen dresses or like more substantial pieces, sometimes those can go for $40 or $50, even pre-owned. This was a men's pickup. This is the brand Vineyard Vines. Nothing too special, and to be honest, I usually leave this brand behind, but the fact that it was merino wool really helped to sell this item for me. So this is also a men's, which makes a big difference. When it comes to men's and women's, you know, what brands I'm picking up, typically in the men's department, the same brand in the men's department will sell better in men's versus women's. So just something to keep in mind, typically has a higher sell-through rate. So this was a men's merino wool sweater jacket in the brand Vineyard Vines. I find definitely that the men's Vineyard Vines stuff does better. But even still, I still try to stick to the more substantial pieces. This one we had listed for $34.97. It sold on an offer for $31.47. This is something I'll usually pick up regardless of brand. This one happens to be Peregrine or Peregrine, and this was made in England. As you can see here, it is 100% wool, and what I'm always looking for is a chunky white or ivory cable knit sweater. And so you want to look for the more, again, chunkier wool pieces, meaning that it is a thicker knit, and you really want to make sure that it hasn't been shrunk. And so that's something to keep in mind when you're picking up items like this, is you want to look at the size compared to, you know, what it looks like in person and measurements, and just make sure that it hasn't shrunk, because I've definitely left pieces behind before that looked like this because they were shrunk. So this is a wool cardigan, and you can see it has all over cable knit detail. Perfect piece for me. Usually can fetch about $40 to sometimes $60, again, regardless of brand. This one I included the keywords fisherman, cable knit, and also grandma core. All of those are great keywords. Grandma core was kind of an additional one that we added, but definitely if you have something like this, add the word fisherman, because this could be considered a fisherman sweater. I originally paid $4.29 for it, and it sold on an offer for $42. This was probably my highest grossing, highest netting sale for the week. This is the brand a Neen Bing or a Neen Bing. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. We found this at the bins, and I had heard of this brand before. It was on my Bolo list, and yeah, I found it at the bins. Definitely was not expecting to find a high-end brand like this one at the bins. This is just a black solid sweatshirt. I think if I would have had something a little bit more substantial, meaning like a different pattern or a nicer material, or even if it was a larger size, I definitely could have gotten even more for this item. This just seems to be a very, very high quality brand. But regardless, even with the small size, even though it was just a plain black sweatshirt, I still was able to sell it for $90, which is an offer that I accepted from a buyer. I think I had it priced at like $125 or something like that. But, you know, again, I picked it up at the bins for probably a couple bucks, flipped it into $90. I was really happy with that. If you're not currently selling in the women's department, but you happen to come across this brand, I would definitely pick it up. This is another men's piece. This is a brand I absolutely love selling. It is Untuck It. These shirts really have a following. This one I happened to find new with tags, and it was also a size large, which again, you know, larger sizes help. This one was called the Dolcetto button-up shirt. I only knew that because of the tag here. You know, new with tags, you're going to get more for the item, but even the pre-owned ones seem to do pretty good. I can usually get between $25 and $30 for those. I originally paid $4.39 for this. It sold for my full asking price of $44.88. I also sold this Michael Kors tote bag. I took a little bit of a chance on this because it did have a little bit of marks on the inside, which you can see we notated here, but otherwise the outside of it was in really great condition. And I'm really careful about Michael Kors because although it does retail for a ton, the resale value is not always there. There's just so much of it. But because this one was more unique, it was kind of metallic. What I did is basically look up Michael Kors metallic monogram tote bag and found that that particular colorway had a really good sell-through rate. And so I decided to pick this up even with the stain on the inside of the bag. Because of the stain, I did price it a little lower. Had it not had that, I probably could have gotten closer to $50, I think. I paid $4.39 for this at a thrift store. It sold on an offer for $31.40, even with the stain. Next up is a Polo Ralph Lauren men's Pima cotton sweater vest. Again, a larger size, a size 2X. You can see that this is a more modern tag, so this isn't vintage or anything like that. But again, we're factor stacking. Polo Ralph Lauren is a great brand. Pima cotton, size 2X. And then the fact that it was a sweater vest. Sweater vests are very trendy right now, and so for all of those reasons, I picked this up. I paid $4.39 for it. It sold on an offer for $26.90. This was another bins pickup, and I have never heard of this brand before. It's called Santana. If you guys see this, I would definitely do a comp. This is a vintage brand, and the only reason I even looked at it was because it had kind of like a tribal print, and it was sweatshirt material, and I could tell that it was vintage. It did have quite a bit of fading, pilling, as you can see here. And we did notate that in the description of the listing, but I went ahead and looked it up anyways, simply because, again, you know, that Southwestern Aztec tribally print really spoke to me, and I knew it was vintage, which is also very trendy right now. So I picked this up at the bins. This brand does have a pretty good sell-through rate. This vintage brand does. So keep your eye out for Santana in the sweatshirts, especially if it is a nice print. So I only picked it up for $1 or $2 at the bins, and it sold very quickly, to my surprise, on an offer for $35.92, even with all that wear. This is another vintage piece. I paid $4.39 for this one. I had heard just from some of the vintage resellers that I used to watch that religious vintage shirts can do really well. It really depends on how clean they are and kind of what the subject material is. This one was very clean. Like, it felt like it had never been worn. It was single stitch, and I just thought it was a really nice graphic. And you'll see I included the word single stitch in here and religious, and of course the word vintage. And so I kind of took a chance on this one. I just had a feeling about it and listed it. I definitely did not expect it to sell this quickly. It sold almost immediately. Maybe I could have priced it a little bit higher, but I'm just happy with my knowledge of the vintage religious shirts and was happy to get it sold quickly. So again, I paid $4.39 for this. It sold for my full asking price of $34.91. Next up is a pair of men's jeans. This is the brand Adriano Goldschmied, and you'll usually see that AG right there on the tag. In this brand, I come across a lot of women's jeans in this brand, and I pick up almost none of them, but in the men's department, I pick up almost all of them. So it's just something you have to be aware of. These were called the Everett Slim Straights. If you see this brand and you see a man's name in the style, like right here, the Everett, typically that is going to be a men's pair of jeans. I paid $4.99 for this at a thrift store. It sold for an offer of $26.87. And some of the other styles, and depending on the size and the wash, can go, up to $50 for a pre-owned pair of these jeans in the men's department. This is another bins pickup. These were heavy though, so I actually ended up paying quite a bit for these, maybe $5 at the bins, just because they were so heavy. They did have a little bit of wear on them. We made sure to notate that. But these are Walls, which is a good like outdoorsy brand men's bib coveralls. If you see coveralls at your thrift store, depending on what the price is, even with a little bit of wear, it can sell for quite a bit. They are highly sought after in multiple brands, and Walls is a really good one. So I picked this up at the bins, again, probably for about $5 just because of the weight. I had it listed for $39.91. It sold very quickly for my full asking price. Here's another men's brand I've been loving picking up. The brand is FootJoy, and usually on the tag all you're going to see is an FJ, kind of like the back of the shirt here. This is just a men's polo shirt. I come across these pretty often. I try to make sure that the sleeves and the front chest area do not have a company embroidery. That is pretty typical with this brand. It gets embroidered with a lot of golf logos and then sometimes also different company logos. So I try to stick to the ones that don't have any logos on it. And it is a really, really good tried and true men's brand for me. I paid $4.39 for this. It sold for my full asking price of $29.91. Last item on eBay I wanted to show you before we jump on over to Poshmark was this Lucky Brand women's 2X top. Lucky Brand is a very popular brand. However, we have really slowed down on what we're picking up in Lucky Brand in the women's department. And in general, we're not, unless we're at the bins, we're not really picking up Lucky Brand unless it's a plus size. So and even sometimes extra large, but I'm mainly trying to stick to the plus size. If you look up a Lucky Brand small or medium women's top, you're going to see that the sell-through rate is really low. But if you look up Lucky Brand size 2X top on eBay, it has an outstanding, crazy, insane sell-through rate. So it's just knowing those little parts of reselling and what factors really contribute to a sale. Otherwise, you might be passing up on a brand entirely when you don't actually need to. So Lucky Brand and the plus size pieces in the women's department are still performing really well for us. Paid $4.39 for this at a thrift store, and it sold on an offer for $26.92. Heading on over to Poshmark, I sold this Arctarex, which is fantastic brand to sell, men's, women's, doesn't matter. I pick it up. Has a crazy insane sell-through rate on eBay. This one actually sold on Poshmark though, and it was just a kind of like a sweater jacket, but it was in pretty decent condition. This sold almost immediately, which if you list Arctarex, your stuff's probably going to sell almost immediately if you price at market. I paid $4.39 for this. It sold for $65. This is a Pendleton women's sweater top, but it was a 2X, and I believe, let me see here, I believe it was just cotton. Yes, it was a cotton polyester blend, which normally in this brand I try to stick to the wool pieces, but again with that factor stacking, it was an XXL. Great brand, and if you know Pendleton at all, you know that they're Southwestern, they're Aztec, and their Western pieces, geometric looking, multicolor, do extremely well. So I decided to go against the grain with this one because of the size, because of the pattern, even though it was just a cotton blend. I paid $4.39 for it at a thrift store, and to my surprise, it sold for $51, which is amazing for just being a cotton top. So, you know, again, keep your eye out for those factors that really make a sale. This is one of my favorite brands to sell. Again, this is a brand I would pick up in both men's and women's upon coming across it in pretty much anything. The brand is Vuori, Vuori, is a really good athletic wear brand. These were a pair of women's leggings, and they sold for $51. We found these at the bins. I'm trying to find the logo here. Kind of hard to tell, but usually there is like a little square or something with Vuori spelled out. Sometimes this tag is cut out, so I would still look for that logo. Kind of like Lululemon, I'm picking them up even without the size tag. The size tag on this one just happened to be a bonus. Here's a great brand to pick up during this time of the year. It is Marmot, and this is a women's extra large zip fleece jacket. I love picking up outerwear in this brand. I love picking up a lot of things in this brand, but outerwear during this time of the year is such a quick sell for a really good return on investment. So this one I paid $5.99 for. It ended up selling for $68. Next up is this Eddie Bauer men's leather jacket. I talked about these a lot over the past couple years. This one took a little bit longer to sell, but let me tell you why I picked this up, because you might be looking at it thinking that looks really worn out. But a couple years ago, there was a hobo chic trend. Hobo chic is a type of style, and it kind of sounds just like, it kind of looks just like it sounds, where people want to look really grungy, distressed, and it's called hobo chic. So I found out a couple years ago when that trend was popular that distressed looking leather jackets did really well and sold for crazy amounts of money. This one in particular had a really nice fade to it. You need to be careful when picking up distressed leather jackets that the leather itself is still in good condition, meaning there's not holes, there's not tears, it's just the color itself that has faded. So this was also a good brand, being Eddie Bauer, and I put a couple really good keywords in it, like motorcycle feel, distressed, and hobo, and I think that really helped to sell it. I actually paid up for this because when I got it, I was so confident in it. I paid $20 for this, knowing that it would sell for a lot. Once again, it did take a little while to sell, but I'm still really happy with the return on investment because I accepted an offer of $114 for this jacket. So 20 into 114, and I'll continue picking up distressed looking leather jackets like this. Really want to be careful though. Don't get anything where the leather is actually torn or anything like that. Just look for fading in the color and make sure it kind of looks like a symmetrical fade, if that makes sense. And then make sure you use the word hobo in your title, because I do think that it makes a big difference. Next up is this pair of Diesel jeans. These are kind of an outlier. Diesel is a brand that I really love picking up in general in the men's department. And this particular one was called Zaff, which I always look up the style name anyways. But what got me about these was I noticed that they had kind of a unique pattern here. And I noticed that whoever owned these took the time to repair a cut in the jean. Someone took the time to repair this. And so for that reason, it told me it was probably a very, very rare stitching. And so what I did was I looked up diesel Zaf jeans, and then I sorted to the solds and sorted to the highest priced and found out that these ones with kind of the artsy embroidery were very, very rare. And so after that long journey of figuring all of that out, I priced mine very high. You'll see that I did include that this was repaired, but regardless, it still ended up selling for a very good profit of $70, and I only paid $4.99 for it. So if you ever think you have something special, make sure to sort by the highest price solds and just kind of make sure that that isn't one of your items that you have. Next up is a pair of men's Tommy Hilfiger jeans. I want to be very clear that I hardly ever pick up Tommy Hilfiger, but there are a couple of exceptions, and this is one of those exceptions, and it is the Carpenter jeans that have the little flag hammer hook right here. So, and I always make sure to put Carpenter in the title as well. Something to keep in mind, I don't want you to look at this and think you should pick up every single Tommy Hilfiger item or even every single pair of Tommy Hilfiger jeans, but the Carpenter style like this do really well. And I always make sure that my cover photo is the back of it so that people can see the patch as well as the Carpenter hook right here. I paid $4.39 for this at a thrift store. It sold for $50. These are a pair of women's running shoes. This is the brand Brooks, which is a really great brand to pick up in both men's and women's, depending on your style. What I like about these shoes is you can pretty much tell that they're Brooks because they have a pretty good logo, and then the style is always right here or on the tongue, so it makes it really easy to look up what these are. These are in pretty decent condition, and they ended up selling on an offer for $42. Really great return on investment for a pair of used shoes. And last item on Poshmark is another men's item. It is by Peter Millar. Peter Millar is one of my favorite brands to sell in the men's department, and specifically the cashmere pieces do really good. This was also size large to good size, and I also like the fall colors in this one. And you know, also just a substantial piece in a pullover zip sweater. This I paid $4.39 for at a thrift store, and it sold very, very quickly for $45. I almost think that I could have held out and got more, but again, I'm looking for a quick sale, so we're willing to accept offers. Alright guys, so that's it for what sold last week. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching. If you're not already and you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell down below. That way you'll be notified as I make these videos. As always, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.